it's just another reminder that even when people is competing for trying to make a living out of artwork, like there is always a space to be welcoming and to be generous.
Hello, print friends, and welcome. This is a bilingual podcast, so if you subscribe to us, you'll be getting episodes in English with me, as well as in Spanish with Reinaldo and Miranda. Together, we speak with people around the globe about their practice and passions in the field of print media and multiples. Print friends, this is a very special episode. Last May, Reinaldo and I, along with Christian Riquelme, traveled to Oaxaca, Mexico to create a documentary about the history of printmaking in the region. The following is a conversation about the process of making that documentary, what it is like to tell such a complex story, our adventures trying to get FaceTime with Shinzaburo Takeda, and what makes Oaxaca so special as a printmaking paradise known the world over. Also, as you'll hear, we're already thinking about our next project. So in April next year, we will be going to San Juan, Puerto Rico for our next documentary, but we need your help to make it happen. We're starting a fundraiser campaign where you can get special thank yous starting at donations of just $35, like original woodcuts, along with many others. There's a link in the show notes for that. Hello Print Friend is brought to you by Speedball Art Products. Currently offering possibly the best thing to happen to relief printmaking, their Woodzilla presses. Beautifully made in the Netherlands, these uniquely engineered presses combine superior craftsmanship and performance at a price that makes them accessible, whether you're a seasoned printmaking pro or new to the craft. Available across 5 sizes, each Woodzilla press is precisely manufactured from heavy-duty steel and designed to apply uniform pressure without undue work or stress for the artist, while still guaranteeing a beautifully printed result at every reveal. Check out the link in the show notes. This episode is also brought to you by Legion Paper. Legion Paper is a fine art paper company that represents the best papers in the world. They either stock it, source it, or make it with brands like Stonehenge, Somerset, Coventry, Reeves, Arches, and more. Legion is the best paper resource for every artist and printmaker's needs. Learn more about the variety of papers Legion stocks at www.legionpaper.com.
Hi, Christian. Hi, Reinaldo. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Hi, Miranda. It's good to see you. It's good to
Good
talk
to
to
see
you.
you both again. Yeah. Thanks for letting me hang out with you again for another hour so soon after the trip, and for being willing to come on and share some of the story about this exciting project. So before we get
Yeah.
into that, I would love if you two introduced yourselves. And I think many of our listeners may already know and love Ronaldo, but Christian, you're going to be a little bit new kid here. But please just say who you are, where you are, what you do.
Excellent. Okay, I'll go. Thank you. Thank you, Miranda. It's good seeing you. Good seeing you, Reinaldo, after our trip. And yeah, I'm Christian Riquelme. I'm from Costa Rica. That's where I am right now, where I live. In a small town, small volcano town called Turrialba. And yeah, I'm a marketing video producer, storyteller. And that's what I do in life.
Beautiful.
My name is Reinaldo Gil Zambrano, and I'm the co-host of the Helping Friend in his Spanish version. And I'm a printmaking artist, and I also teach Gonzaga University.
And how did you meet? And how did you come to work on this project together?
No, that story goes way back a few years. We were roommates around 15 years ago. We met when we were like 15, 16 years old, and we went to study abroad in this institution called United World College, which is it's in a we'll summarize it, and Reynaldo can help me, but in a nutshell, it's like a social experiment where you bring kids from 200 countries, no, from 80 countries to 100 kids of around 15 to 18 years old, and you have them live together. And I was lucky enough to have Reynaldo as my roommate.
Yeah, so this is an experiment that was created like around 50, almost 60 years ago. And it was like a way to use education as a way to change the world. And the first school was created in the UK, in Wales, actually. And since then, there is around like over over 10 institutions around the world, where every year national committees from each country select kids, send them to these places, and they're from different backgrounds. Like from, you can have the really rich kids with a higher education to kids that come from the SOS villages, and just putting it all together and trying to make them live and get to understand each other. And it was an amazing experience. It was like the most amazing 2 years I ever had so far. And I happened to be roommates with Christian, but we met like a year before that. We were actually in the same residency, but we used to the same place. We used to live in these small buildings. We used to hang out together and stuff. But then the second year when we were roommates, that was when we finally got to get closer. To follow your question, how we got to work together after. I have been sharing this idea with you, Miranda, for a while since we started with the podcast. I always thought that there was something extra that we could do with the stories that we're collecting in this beautiful archive. And having video is another way to just like compile all these beautiful stories. And when it finally happened that we could materialize this idea, the first person that came to my head was Christian, because I do love his video work, and I also think that I love like his proactiveness, and I felt that he would be a great fit for it.
Wonderful. And so, give me a little bit more background on the project. When did the idea first come to you that doing a video project in Oaxaca would be something that would be rewarding, interesting, maybe a bit of an adventure?
I think that since I started falling in love with printmaking over a decade ago in school, you always hear the people talking about the magic around Oaxaca. It's a city that has the most studios per capita in the world related to printmaking. The type of work that they produce there is a lot of high quality, and it's just like in massive quantities. And it's not just the idea of the printmaking, but it's also the idea of resistance that is somehow embedded into the iconography that they develop there. And there is also the history, right? Like it's a culture that has been somehow defending his identity despite other people wanted to live there, to come there and profit about this magic. There is also like the beauty of the mezcal, all the combination of different cultures that make the identity of that place very special. So I just keep hearing about it. And then after starting to collect all these stories, Ashley and I like did this trip around the United States, around 6,000 miles, just a road trip, like filming people in their studios. I just felt that I really wanted to tell the story and try to understand why Oaxaca was so special. So that's basically where everything came from.
Yeah. Christian, did you have any impressions about Oaxaca? Did you know anything about it being an art center or anything besides mezcal and mole before this trip?
Not really, and I think that's interesting. Me being an outsider to this world, like I'm a storyteller. I tell stories of people. I just basically serve as another eye to tell stories. So even my understanding of printmaking, even after this trip, I'll think is very limited. I'm very new to it. So coming to Oaxaca and seeing all this, I think was great. And it's interesting. I've been in Oaxaca maybe 5-6 years ago, but it's so interesting that when I was there, I was seeing something completely different because I was in a whole for a whole different purpose there. But now this time, you do see it. You do see it. What Reinaldo said: culture, the printmaking, the style, the whole the whole culture weaved into what printmaking is. You do see it, and it gets transmitted into you. But like I said, I was as an outsider. This was very interesting to see a place in Latin America that is so what's the word, prolific, I think, with the art, and I think that's very interesting, and we'll get of course to more details about it, but I think it's very, for what I could understood, all these elements of Oaxaca that play a role make it very unique for this art, and we hope to show some of that. There's a series of events that happened back in the day and that were specific to that place, specific to that moment, specific to their context, that led to what it is now. And I think that's pretty grand. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you all have a question or a thesis when you were going into it and doing the planning about what this documentary would be? Or did you go into it maybe just more like the idea that you're going to show up and let the story play itself for you?
Well, I always have the question of Oaxaca, why there is this accumulation of talent and production in this particular part of the world. But that was the interesting thing of working and collaborating with Christian, right? Because my printmaking heart wants to know everything about the printmaking world. But then he
Mhm.
was able to dissect that and start breaking it into a story. What exactly are we trying to understand here? It's about this particular main figure that everybody prays as the master of everybody. It's about the protest. It's about resilience. But at the end, like what we got to do was to understand that the main character was printmaking, and then there is all these different elements that somehow contribute to the idea of it. And then, of course, one part of me wanted to control all that narrative,
Mm.
but then Christian also with his expertise was like, you need to be open to see what we're gonna be getting. Once we start collecting the stories, like there is some other things, some other tangents that maybe we can be open to also illustrate and record into this narrative, and that's what happened. And at the end, it was yeah, it was rewarding for sure. I don't know, Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't think I had a thesis, to be honest, as to why, but yeah, I think definitely my understanding. There's definitely elements or events that happen, and I think you could pinpoint it to maybe two or three. If you were to define the elements of what to answer that question, why Oaxaca, why so prolific in printmaking, and I had no idea that those elements existed. We have heard about it when we did our research. We've heard, oh yeah, there was an event back in the day that apparently triggered a lot of this, but we didn't know what or in what sense. Why would this specific event would trigger this the rise of the arts? And then also we knew there were people that were key figures, but there were more than one person. There were many people that played roles even up until the last day of us being there, that we realized, oh, there was another person who also. And then, sorry, I'll back up a little. In listening to some interviews, you realize that a lot of people mention this artist as somebody who gave for the community. So you have events, you have people pushing the arts, very talented and successful artists that were like, you know what, I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna build schools for it. I'm gonna create buildings, libraries, centers for the arts to grow. And that was another element. And then you have things that are more contextual to the place, which is tourism, which is the influx of people moving by, creating an economy around certain things. So I think there's a lot of these elements that came to us later on that we had an idea, but we did not to what extent. So even I don't think I had a theory. I had these, okay, yeah, maybe these elements are part of why, but now after going there and seeing it, we realize, oh wow, there's all these elements playing these many roles into to the rise of printmaking in Oaxaca.
It seems like there was lot of research that went into before you arrived. There was a schedule. You had all these different times you were going to meet people, and some of it went according to plan and some of it didn't. And then some of it, as you say, it just happened from being in the city and speaking with people and someone saying, no, what you really need is you need to go see this archive, or you really need to talk to so and I guess I'd love to hear you talk about that process of planning and trying and getting this idea in your head, but then also being able to let the story tell itself as well. And is there a balance in that was easy to strike, hard to strike?
Yeah, no, I think it was beautifully, like organically grown. Our whole time there, I think it flowed very organically in the best possible way, because we had again all these ideas of things we're gonna do and people we're gonna interview, but also to the point of the community being such an welcoming and big community of printmaking, that people were like, oh, like I could recommend it to this person, which having this type of work, which is having this other type of work. So organically, we were passed around people, I think, in the best possible way. And that's part of doing what we're doing, which is going open to hearing the story. Of course, that made it very busy. I think we were on the road pretty much every day, all day, from early morning until late at night. because of this moving, switching. Oh, come here, go there. Like, how about this new place? But I think all of it was, yeah, I think in that sense.
Yeah, and it's definitely the expectations, right? When you base your research on what you read on the news or what you read on the internet or what you hear from other people, everything's limited. You
Mm.
create this idea of what the reality is. So, of course, like when you make a strong, uptight schedule like we develop, it is subjective to everything working out. I have to say, honestly, like what happened, the main figure that we were looking to document was who is the master that many people reference as the main figure that inspired many generations of printmakers. We went there after already establishing a connection with one of his assistants. And then we show up and we plan 2 days specifically for him, like one day to meet him and one day to record. And we hit this wall where pretty much the guy said, okay, you guys should go and visit some other people. You need to do more research, even when we thought that we did it. And, but yeah, basically, like we were not expecting that welcoming, right? Like we thought that we were just gonna hit it on the recording and get these nuggets of knowledge from this amazing figure, but we received rejection. But then it was great to be in a group of the three of us, because even when I was all bummed out, like you guys were like super proactive and super positive. Hey, we need to keep going. We need to try. We need to keep like asking. And then at the end, that was a reward for that effort. Like we were able to finally like document this big figure after we documented the rest of the artists. So we were able to have a better understanding of the context and ask better questions to him. So we were in a way more prepared, but also that open space and time, just as Christians say, to go and visit other shops that we didn't put because of the restriction of time. We didn't put on the schedule, but we were, once again, because the pre-maker community is so open and so generous, right? Like we were able to see that in another context, which was the Oaxacan context, like opening the spaces for us, inviting us to see the whole process and then get a better feeling of it, what the reality of these shops interactions is. So that was an amazing thing for sure.
Yeah, Takeda was supposed to be the first interview, like the first contact,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it didn't go as planned, as you mentioned. But then I feel like the way these things often work is that they work as they're supposed to, and so ended up actually being the last interview. And yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about that, because I feel like that was such a really specific experience to go to Kata's house on that last day. And he had these big chow dogs that kept barking and trying to protect him as we're trying to record. And of course, he had mezcal for everyone and he had some food out. And yeah, what was that kind of as a story arc within the story arc of in terms of an emotional experience for you filmmakers?
Yeah, I think I, to be honest, at this point, I haven't fully listened to all the interviews of him. I want to save those to the end. But I feel like with him, he has how many years? 80 years, I think, of experience on the field and on life in general. That listening to him, like you said, is a story in itself.
Mm.
Even when we were in his house, listening to his stories that perhaps have nothing to do with answering the question why printmaking in Oaxaca, that are just very interesting because it's his life. It's 80 years of life of a person who came from Japan, from far, and work in so many different aspects of the arts, and now it's living in the place that is the mecca of printmaking. So to me, that in itself, his story to be
Mm.
told, like whether or not his story answers specifically why printmaking in Oaxaca, I think that's to be uncovered later. But it's very interesting being in his presence, I feel.
Yeah, and asking some of his students, some of them describe him as an experience, right? Being in his presence is this spiritual experience that somehow you feel so inspired and you feel so moved. And I feel that we were able to have a feeling of that being
Mm.
in his house. It's definitely an intimidating presence, especially when he looks at you straight to the eyes and when he asks you questions, where it's kind of like he's looking through your soul, right? And especially when he doesn't agree, when he doesn't agree with one of your answers. But at the same time, it was beautiful to see the human aspect of it. This person who genuinely cares about his students, who believes that it's a matter of like being creative, just making things together as a community and bringing experience to other people or traveling to other places for you to somehow immerse yourself in the realities of the context where you live, and then use that as a way to create beautiful pieces or illustrations or somehow visual narratives that then later on celebrate the essence of what being in Oaxaca is. I love one of his phrases. He said, one thing that I love is that the Oaxacan youth has this really strong energy and raw talent that I had never seen in other places. And then he was able to canalize that energy into the production of printmaking. And now you see his students pretty much like making all these amazing work in many different spots. And it was interesting to see that when he started teaching, there was a combination of things. Printmaking maybe wasn't that popular, but then specifically that event that Christian was talking about, 2006, the protest by the teachers, they were using the process of printmaking as a way to raise their voices. And it feels that the talent and the practice that they already had, like match goal and a common purpose, and they were able to explode with this iconography of protests that later on got the recognition, develop a market to create all the things that we see now in printmaking in Oaxaca for sure.
Yeah. And so what were some of the themes that came up as you went from shop to shop? I feel like visited a dozen shops in the week. Do you have a number of how many it was? But at least a dozen, I feel like.
Man, I don't
But
know. Yeah.
yeah, so you're going there and you're asking them to tell their story a little bit, but you're also asking them to speak about Oaxaca generally and that question of why Oaxaca, why this print mecca as we've called it. So what were some of the answers that were consistent or things that came up that maybe are starting to answer that question from the collective consciousness?
Yeah, I think, yeah, let's see if we can identify the themes. But I think some of them, the why Oaxaca, follow some sort of chronological order, right? Being a place, okay, common themes. Being a place of arts already, arts of tradition, that came up as a theme, that it was already, that place Oaxaca itself is a place already of arts. Even if you go back in time, it's rich on weaving, on fabrics, on color, or dyeing, on carving before time. So there's a lot of artistry in the area. That, I think that was a theme, that there's already a culture of colors, of visuals, of making with your hands. I think that was one thing. Second theme, I think, was the events that Reinaldo mentioned in 2006, and how it was a big event that the archives is full of news about this kind of like boiling situation in Mexico that exploded at one point and led to a lot of revolts in the street and a lot of communities coming together. So arts being a way of expressing one's emotion, or one's current situation, also had a place into these events. So I feel common theme was like these events of protests where arts was used as another channel of communicating between not only the protesters but between like Mexico in general. And I think another common theme was that people exploring identity. I think there was a common theme that the artists in Oaxaca wants to explore their own identity, and it being so rich, it leads to so many different perspectives. There's identities that we interview related to indigenous culture. So I want to represent my cosmovision through arts. So that's a completely different art than somebody who's I want to represent the social aspect of our contemporary society, which is very different. And then we have like artists who came from other states of Mexico. I want to mix my art with this. So that's another common thing, I think, exploring identity. So we have all these. What else am I guess the influences too of people like Takeda, Toledo, that were people that push each other to grow in the art scene and give some of what share some of what they had. So I think that's another common theme that we can uncover. I'm not sure, Reynaldo, if
Yeah.
I'm missing.
No, definitely. I feel that another common theme in each shop was mezcal, though, because everywhere that we went, we were received with mezcal. So we tried many different ones, and maybe that was a good thing that we practiced during the week. And then when we have to talk to Takeda, our liver was trained for it. But yeah, no, but it's beautiful because it represents this cultural aspect of them. It was also has been also commercialized by the foreign money. So it's good to see that sense of keeping it close to themselves, and as a symbol of pride and a symbol of sharing and welcoming, and also collaboration. All the different shops that we saw, you can see the cross pollination between the artists, right? They will carry each other's artwork in all these different places in order to help each other to sell better in the different locations. So that was also another aspect that I feel that it was pretty nice and like eye opening too. We can see the negative and the positive aspects of it, but definitely I will add those two aspects to the things that we discovered.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to add to Reynaldo, I think that collectiveness, I think that's definitely an interesting theme of what you could tell makes it different. Of course, one example is this group that we visited some of their participants of this collective called Pasaporte Gráfico, I think is what it's called, which it was, again, as an outsider, so cool to see because you hear of this. So to give a little context to Pasaporte Gráfico, the way I understood it was a collective of different print shops or galleries and workshops that are part of this collective that you visit and you get like a little paper passport that you get stamped in each place. And I think that concept is often seen in many different areas of tourism, of explore all the passport to the gastronomy. So you go to different restaurants or different activities of tourism, but to see it and print make it and so organized, I think that speaks to this collectiveness that Rinaldo mentioned, which is really cool. And props to Oaxaca for implementing that and creating a collective of people that, as a tourist, as somebody who comes, you get excited about visiting all these shops and learning about all of their work and why each one is different.
Yeah, I think that's something that I found really interesting again to reflect on what you both said about the collective. A lot of the shops, they're set up as galleries, as production studios, as collective spaces, and they'll show their own work, but then you'll also see work from the other studios that we saw. And that's such a different model than what you find if you say go to the gallery district in downtown Seattle, where I spent 5 years of my professional life. You would never see the same artist being shown just across the street from each other. And I think that really speaks to this idea of that people there understand that this is something really special and this is something that brings people to them. And so there's no need not to support each other because it's that rising tide truly does raise all boats for everyone who's there and who's working and who's making art. And that really strong sense that most people had that we spoke with that seemed to have this sense of Oaxaca as being a special place that produces special people and special work. Yeah. What do you think are some challenges of telling this story? Like you showed up and you talked to people and you have a lot of tape, a lot of wonderful B-roll. And now you have to make a story out of it. You need to make something that has a narrative and has a through line. And I think maybe one of the tricky things about all documentary making is that, of course, there's not one thing. There's no truth in the fact that one place has one through line, right? That's not really how the world works. But we need to be able to tell some kind of a narrative through all the experiences, all the people who shared their time with us. How does one go about doing that and picking that, and maybe some challenges in that way that you're anticipating in this next phase of the project?
No, yeah, that's a beautiful question. Is if anybody has the answer, please email it to me at Christian at. I'll be looking forward for those answers. No, I think I'm already like seeing which the challenge of going through the bureau and the interviews. No, there's 500, 600 gigabytes of some of those. No, I think because there are so many people doing beautiful things, and that it's hard to, if you focus on one person, you have enough material to tell a beautiful story about that person, and their work, and their history, and what they're doing, and their aspirations, and their future. But there is so many stories that you can't really feature all of them. You can really feature one because you need to tell a story that they're all are sharing together, and that they shed some light on things that what we're talking about. What are these events? What are these themes? What do people? What do they want to share it through their art in Oaxaca? That's exactly what I want to answer, and what I want to piece together from their words into provide enough context of why Oaxaca in history, why Oaxaca in culture, why you specifically in Oaxaca, what interests you, what makes you go through your topics. So I think the challenge is to put that story together through all the stories. Gladly, we'll have a lot of material to then dissect individual. We want to feature today these artists. We can explore that individually, but as a whole, I think the challenge is to not leave anything out, which is going to happen, of course, because like you have like hours of interviews and you have so many different topics that almost breaks your heart. You're like, oh, this is so
Mm.
good, but is it? Does it stay in? Does it stay out? Like you want to put everything, but then it's going to be like a 6 hour story that we won't watch. So I think that's the challenge is to not leave anything out, but tell a story that uncovers these nuances of why Oaxaca, but also gives insight into individual artists and what they do, what they do.
And I will add to that I feel that one of the challenges too was to craft questions that somehow will contribute to the linear storytelling that we're trying to tell. And
Mm.
then like how it was also a challenge to get complete answers from the artists on tape. Like I feel that they were so respectful of certain events, like they didn't want to like really talk about 2006 if they didn't participate. They wanted to be respectful also of the role that some of the artists had in specific moments in the Oaxacan printmaking history. So all those things, right? And also there's so many things that you experience by being in the environment that is like impossible to record or
Mm.
impossible to archive or document. Like being in the Espacio Siqueiros, which is an archive for the 2006 protests, like the iconography on the walls in that particular the murals there, like when they're outspoken about the influence of Airbnbs in the realities of renting, how those things are affecting like the living situation in Oaxaca. Some of the issues that some of the artists are going to have with each other, like the fact that maybe the participation of women in the passport, in the pasaporte gráfico, is kind of somehow not fully represented in some of the studies that are included. And also like how the realities of like political views and how they're like somehow careful of not showing like their political views, and also how the government might be supporting some artists more than others. It's just like so many different layers that then
Mhm.
it brings the question, what exactly do you want to say? Do you want to be just transparent about all these things? Do you want to just celebrate the magic of it? Do you want to preserve the mysticism around what printmaking is? Or you want to just contribute to tell the story so more people can go and really see the core of this beautiful thing that they're doing there? And I guess that's something that like Christian has the big challenge there because he's our editor. But at the same time, I feel that having that experience is just like reflecting and thinking more about what exactly is Oaxaca for each one of us.
Mhm.
And if we really feel that we want to share that with other people, and if that's going to somehow change their perspective about what the place is, and if they're going to feel more compelling to travel there or not.
And I think your question it is the I think it's the guiding what you said is the guiding thing in my head that I have when I'm editing. What does Oaxaca mean to me? Because and we can go into discussions as to is there does there has to be a bias into the editing of this, or can you get rid of your bias? Is that even possible, or is your bias has to be like interesting enough that would make it question. And I think that's a challenge. Coming back to the question, which is, what did you see? What does it mean to you versus what it is? And oftentimes, when you craft a story, realistically too, this fast, like you also have to be careful as to what story do you think you're seeing, because after being 10 days there, like we did research, we uncovered things in 10 days. You listen to the interviews, and every time you listen, you're like, oh wow, oh, that has a different meaning. But it's only 10 days of a reality that has existed for 80, 60, 100 years. So I think that's a challenge too, like how much of the bias of your own interpretation you put, and in which way, which I think you can never separate yourself from it. Like you're gonna have to give your own interpretation, but it is tricky. It's tricky when, like we said earlier, even up to the last day, we kept hearing stories. And imagine if we spent 6 months there, would the perspective of one place would have changed? Would that story had to be told that perhaps now it's not being told, or it's being told differently? But those are the ifs that there. I don't think there's answers for it. Like we'll just have it and question those things.
Yeah, those are such great answers and such huge questions for sure. And one of the really stark things that I was thinking about was the water shortages that came up almost everywhere we went. It was so present in the way we were asked to interact in our Airbnb. But we realized that's not the story that we came to tell, but even though it is affecting the people who are in our story. And that was such a tricky thing because it felt like it was important and it was present, because certainly printmaking, paper making, in its very core and the materiality affects the water and uses a lot of water. But again, it's so hard to choose when you know that you're competing with TikTok for people's attention span. You have to be so smart and so precise with what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and that's a topic in itself, because that itself is a topic. And interesting enough, I don't know if you we remember this, but some people mentioned the water situation off mic. On camera they didn't. So then it makes you like, and this could be a broader humanity. Are we already desensitized to this issue, to the point that we're dealing with it like we're dealing with it? Interestingly enough, when I was going through the archive, through the newspapers, there was a news that I thought it was very interesting. I think I had a picture of it, that from 2006, it said Oaxaca heading into a water crisis over consumption on the city in 2006. Think about that. We're in 2024, living the water crisis. For all these 18 years, what is it? Is my math right? We ignored that issue. And even now, we're ignoring the issue, which, again, that's a topic in itself for our own societal like world. But that's it is an issue, it's present, it has been present. Like you said, it is something that needs to be mentioned. In which way and how and for what reason? What it's yeah. I digress.
No, it's good. It's really good. Yeah. What was, for both of you, what were your favorite parts of the trip? You were there for 10 days. You had things that were the interviews, there was connecting with people, as you said, like on camera, off camera. We got to do things like go on like mezcal tour, a brewery distillery tour, and got to go dancing one night. We got to meet amazing people, go to an amazing marketplace as well. So it was a really, like, all of it was in the service of the documentary. But what's like a favorite memory or two from the whole trip?
I think, to me, it's Central America. I'm very close culturally, although we're also very different culturally to Mexico. But we share a lot of commonalities into the visuals, the food, our interactions. But to me, my favorite part were the moments where I felt like I was in Mexico, through things that, like, again, like every day we felt like we're in Mexico, but through specific cultural demonstrations that maybe I don't have here. Even something as simple as what Reinaldo said of sharing the mezcal. That was a constant. Like here, take here, share a moment, and more than the mezcal itself is the culture of sharing a time of welcoming you, like of people offering to you what they have, and those moments specifically make you feel like you're in Mexico, and that openness of the community. I think those to me were the favorite parts. Every time I was reminded that there's a whole world living differently, which it's of course it's the way life is. There's 7 billion people living differently than you, so that's just a reality. But to be reminded and to feel it, I think is it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, yeah, like the dancing of the La Boda del Huitlacoche.
I still play it. I still play it when I need a little energy boost. For everybody listening to this, go listen to La Boda. We will get a hype.
A que la bailes machín. Yeah, no, and I think another thing, just piggybacking for what Christian say, just that reminder. We see that every time that we speak with our guests in the podcast, like how open they are, how generous they are of their time, and how much they're willing to like share and just make you feel welcome. That happened there in the shops. Like people were like giving us drinks, like showing us stuff, like taking pictures. Oh, let me show you this, let me show you that, let me show you how we do registration here using like these tiny little needles, let me show you how we carve this stuff, the tools that we use, the like all the different catalogs for the different shows that we have, the folders, the carpeta gráficas, all this stuff, right? I feel that's beautiful. That's another reason why I fell in love with printmaking is that sense of community, and it's so embedded into each country that so far we have been going to visit. I speak because I went to Colombia to see the printmaking community there, Mexico right now, and then like we went to around the United States, and it was exactly the same thing. And I bet that you can speak about the Thai culture too in the print shops. So it's just another reminder that even when people is competing for trying to make a living out of artwork, like there is always a space to be welcoming and to be generous to each other. And I feel that just another reminder that like we're human beings and we have this positive aspect of our nature that we should celebrate despite like all the war pretty much trying to like celebrate the individual. So it was just a nice refreshment and a nice reminder, and it kind of makes me excited of continue doing the things that we do.
Absolutely. Those are beautiful answers. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking in specifics. Oh, Christian, did you want to?
No, so how about you?
Oh,
What's your favorite?
yeah. Thinking about it, I was really thinking about particularly Gabriela Morac, who, after we interviewed her, it was like immediately, it was like mezcal came out, music came on, Oaxacan cheese was like on the press bed. And it just was this just absolutely like magic rest of the evening because she was our last interview of the day. And then she invited us to her home on Sunday. And the last meal that we had was this beautiful mole that she made for us. And it just was, I know, Reinaldo, you had her on the podcast before, so you had some history with her, but still, she'd never met me. She'd never met Christian. And just this like instant openness and sharing, and it's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, reflecting on what you both said, but the specific I was thinking about, everyone was really wonderful, but I think we had some particularly special moments with her and really got to the privilege of receiving her generosity for sure. Yeah. So what did you two learn on this project that you're going to take with you for future Hello Print Friend Media Empire documentaries?
Wow, that's a great question.
So wait, you're saying that we're going to continue doing this?
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, we're going to have to make more.
So are you announcing to our audience that this is going to be a constant in our podcast?
Yeah, I'm making the promise on air. Yeah.
All right. And
I think what I learned is that I don't know enough, so I need to go continue learn in the next edition. Yeah, I think in my case, anything related to printmaking, I saw. I think differently than maybe you two that are more immersed in this world. To me, it's a very new world, and I think I learned a lot about that, about great people doing beautiful work and thriving, and I think that's always good to see.
yeah, I had the pleasure to like learn a lot from Christian, right? Like the setting of the lights, like camera angles, sound, how to somehow craft questions to follow a story. um, I also learned just to be like more resilient and open, and be, yeah, be open to the possibilities. It doesn't matter how much you plan, there is always things that you cannot control. And at the end, it's great to be in an amazing supportive group like the two of you. I feel that we have amazing conversations during our trip that somehow help us out, or help me out specifically to somehow understand that was part of the process. And that sense of openness is going to allow you to grow, and it's going to allow you to be more present, and it's going to allow you to somehow find the fascinating things of the commonalities of the project. I feel that I'm being bitten by the bug of like making more documentaries and stories. I feel that this is just like a tease, and it makes me realize that there's so much that we can archive, like so much that we can document, so many different stories that we can tell. Having printmaking has the core of it, but at the same time, like, celebrate cultural identity, celebrate like what makes Latin America in this case like so beautiful, despite all the realities of Latin America that we were able to live, that somehow shape us and make us wonder like why is such a interesting and intense place. And I also got to learn a little bit more about that it doesn't matter where you go, like, people still have this good side on them. Even despite the cultural differences, there is always this commonality for the good thing and the right thing, and I'm grateful for that, for sure. And I cannot wait to see the cut. I cannot wait to see the video. We were able to meet amazing people, though, like Eloy, our driver. It's just that I feel that I'm just so happy to be a reminder once again, and I know that there is so much good in the world, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I feel like that's just like the perfect thing to wrap up on, for sure, cuz I think that it was a beautiful trip full of beautiful people, and I just feel so fortunate to have gotten to experience it with you both, and gotten to know you, Christian, and gotten to know you better, Ronaldo, through the trip. And I just think that we can put something lovely and important and significant and nice out in the world together. And yeah, so thanks for having the trip with me, you two.
Thank you, thank you. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful sharing, connecting. I think, like Reynaldo said, we all share a lot of commonalities, and we're all trying to do good things, do things better. And I think that's motivating. That's what we needed
Mhm.
nowadays too, to see others working towards a better future from their own trenches. And I think the world needs more of that. So
Mm,
even just sharing that with people, I think it's a good reminder, because oftentimes, like, lots of us are sometimes are seeing a lot of the bad happening, but not the good happening.
yeah.
And I think that's important to carry that message, that although it's not perfect, it's not to be like fake positive. The world's still struggling, but there's great people doing great things.
Mm,
And and we can all be supportive of that. We can all share, we can all help spread the word to heal as a community.
Yeah,
And I think this helps for that. And I hope we can continue to tell these stories. And this is what I love from any angle storytelling. I'm just one story on this world. You are another, Miranda. Reynaldo is another. If we plug a camera and spend a week with you, we can make a tearing documentary about your life, because that's everybody's life. Everybody's life is doing something you're not doing. Everybody has a lesson for you that you haven't learned, because it's not your life. And if you're willing to listen to that, I think your life will be enhance a lot. And I think that's what I love doing, what I do, telling stories. And it's not my story, I can't control it, I won't modify it. I'll just tell it
mm,
in the way I can, to share it.
yeah. And I also want to add the support, the general support from the Institute for Electronic Arts from Alfred University, like, to somehow like believing in this idea. Is they felt that this was a relevant thing to do, and you have many options, but decide to support this documentary, and we're really honored to do that. And I feel that we have been putting the time, and we're going to try to do our best to make something memorable that can be shared with more people to celebrate the beautiful parts of Oaxaca, like the core of it, what maybe tourists might not see, maybe what other people overlook, but we were able to experience. So yeah, just want to say thank you for believing in us and giving us that chance.
Yeah. Very happy that I got to be a part of it, and I'm really excited to see what comes next in the documentary and in Hello Print Friends' continued journey into media, expanded media world.
So is this an official kind of, how do you say, baptism of Christian as part of the team, or what?
I'm honored. What is happening?
I did put a Print Friend cap in the mail to you a few days ago, so I think that's once it arrives, it's your official. It's like
It's official.
It's like when you're in the Masons and you get the little pin you can wear. It's the same thing.
Great.
That's cool.
So we'll have matching tattoos too.
Yeah,
soon.
That's what we didn't get this trip. We'll have to next documentary. Yeah.
You get Hello, I get Prince, and Reinaldo get Friends.
Oh, that would be awesome.
The person most tangentially related to print gets the word just print on them. I think that's
exactly. His Brandon.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's what happens if you let printmaking get too close to you. It'll suck you in.
Yeah, be careful, man. Exactly. Yeah, once you get into the dark side.
What? I already got a press here. What are you talking about?
Wait, you do?
No.
No, that's awesome.
And this was something that I was saying on our trip, is that either people don't know what printmaking is or they love it. And I think that I want to be a part of bringing more people into that latter category through telling stories with you all. So I think that probably the best thing that people can do is just follow you, Reinaldo, and you, Christian, on maybe social medias for updates, and of course, Hello Print Friend for updates on what's happening. And we are going to be shopping it around to a few festivals, as we've already talked about. So if anyone listening has ins at film festivals, find me at Miranda at helloprintfriend.com. But also, yeah, if it is showing someplace, we'll of course be announcing it. And then when it can be seen on a permanent home, we'll definitely let everyone know as well. Yeah. Do you all want to give your handles or your websites or where people can find and follow you?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, RGC Prints, or you can go into reinaldogilzambrano.com and you can see some of the updates there.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I'm not too active, but you can still find me on CR__ART. I know it's complicated. I made this many years ago. Haven't changed it. But yeah, I think excited to share this soon, give updates.
Very cool. I'll put links to both of those in the show notes so you two will be easy to find. And thank you again for sitting down for an hour and reliving our Oaxacan experience for a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Cheers to many more memories.
Thank you, Miranda.
If you liked today's episode and you got excited about our documentaries, please consider donating and help us make our next documentary in April 2025. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we have great thank yous, and there is a link in the show notes where you can learn all about it. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you in 2 weeks.